Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Liad. Today, I'm diving into part 2 of the painting process behind this piece, a 16 by 20 inch oil painting on panel. This one took me about 25 hours of actual painting time, which doesn't even include all the prep work, photography, and planning. I had a hard deadline of 8 days to complete this, and since the whole process was so long, I decided to split it up into 2 videos. In part 1, I talk about my reference image, how I took the photo at a local gallery, some of the challenges I ran into while working from it, and the fact that I was painting on a larger panel than I usually do. Working on a bigger scale always comes with its own set of difficulties, but also a lot of opportunities. So if you haven't seen part 1 yet, go check it out after this one. For this painting, I made some intentional shifts in my style. Nothing too extreme, but I definitely leaned into more traditional oil painting techniques and portraiture, instead of incorporating as many abstract or impressionistic elements as I sometimes do. It's still very much my style, painterly, expressive, but I held back on big, chunky marks and instead focused more on refined details in key areas. The reason I adjusted my style is because I created this piece specifically to enter into the Portrait Society of America's annual competition. If you're not familiar with the Portrait Society of America, it's an organization that focuses entirely on portraiture, hosting competitions, classes, webinars, and big events for portrait artists. Last year, I went to their conference for the first time, and honestly, it was such an incredible experience. I got to meet so many talented artists and have some amazing conversations about painting, technique, and the industry as a whole. It was really inspiring to be surrounded by people who are just as obsessed with portraiture as I am. The Portrait Society's competition is one of the biggest in the portrait world, and while I know that realistically my chances of winning are slim, I still wanted to enter. You might be saying to yourself, wait, if you don't expect to win, why enter? And if you are saying that to yourself, even though it's directed at me, I can't hear you through your screen or in your thoughts, so you are talking to yourself. So let's talk about that. The not expecting to win part, not the voices in your head part. I know a lot of artists struggle with putting their work out there for fear of rejection. Trust me, I get it. It sucks to pour your heart and soul into something and then not even make it past the first round of judging. And yeah, everyone wants to win first place. But here's the thing, competitions aren't just about winning. For me, this competition was about pushing myself outside of my comfort zone. This painting was a bit different from what I normally do, and I love challenging myself to try new things. Getting my work in front of the right audience. Even if I don't win, submitting to competitions means my work is being seen by people who truly appreciate that type of work. Experience and growth. The more you enter, the more you learn about what works, what doesn't, and how to refine your work over time. There are different levels of recognition. Sure, everyone wants to be in the top 10, but they do have smaller award recognitions and categories as well. You never know where you might land and where that will lead to. Also, to give you a little peek behind the curtain, I've had friends who have been a part of the judging process for different shows. And here's something really important to remember. Art competitions are super subjective. Judges go through hundreds, sometimes thousands of submissions, and they have very limited time to make decisions. And sometimes it gets split up amongst multiple judges, so one judge might not see all of the submissions. If you don't get in, it's not necessarily because your art isn't good. It could just be that your piece didn't fit the vibe they were going for this year. So if you're hesitating to put your art out there because of rejection, don't let that stop you. If you want real feedback on your work, find a mentor or someone you trust to critique it. Otherwise, just keep making and submitting art. You never know what might happen. Now, let's talk about my palette choices for this piece, because I went on a bit of a detour from my usual setup. If you've been following my videos, you know I recently did a whole series on my CMYK palette. talking about how I use it and why I love it. So naturally, for this painting, I completely abandoned it. Okay, abandoned might be too harsh. I mostly used my CMYK palette for about 95% of the painting. But towards the end, I realized I needed to push some colors outside of its range, so I added a few extra paints. I even made a special trip to the art store to pick up some new colors, which ended up being a waste of time and money, unfortunately. The extra colors I used were ultramarine blue. This gave me access to richer purples and violets since it leans a little more red than my phthalo blue. Cobalt teal. I barely used this, but in a few small areas I put in tiny, unmixed dabs just for a pop of color. Cadmium red light and Windsor red, probably the most useful out of the added colors. I was able to get the deep, vibrant ruby reds I needed, and also the stronger, brighter oranges that my quinacridone rose just couldn't reach. I did put both the Cad Red Light and the Windsor Red on my palette. Windsor Red, by the way, is basically Pyrrole Red. But I lost track of which was which, and I used them both, so it's hard for me to say which was more useful. Cobalt Violet. This one was a bit of an impulse buy. I thought it would help me reach brighter purples and violets. But nope, I should have saved my money. At the store, I actually was planning on getting dioxazine purple, since a few people recommended it in the comment section. But when I saw the paint swatches, cobalt violet looked more appealing. Turns out that was probably a mistake. I think I would have been better off with dioxazine purple or nothing at all. I did almost buy a tube of Opera Rose by Michael Harding, because I know for a fact that I can't mix that color myself. But unfortunately, it's basically a neon paint, and like most neon paints, it isn't very light fast, so I skipped it. So here's the final painting. Let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think I should have leaned more into my usual expressive style, or do you like the more traditional approach? Can you even tell the difference? Is it all in my head? That really could be the case. Now that this piece is done, I'm looking forward to getting back to my daily paintings and pushing myself in a more expressive direction again. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's next. And if you want to chat more about art, join my Discord community or follow me on social media. Links are in the description. Have an amazing week, and as always, happy painting.